Well, Dave, when you look back at it now, 4 points from those two games against Northampton and Bradford, are you happy with that return? Is it something you'd have took going into those games?
I suppose you would, but I think once we'd won the Northampton game, then obviously we knew what the opportunity was against Bradford. But against two teams that, like I say, we aspire to catch and overtake, if you like. So in terms of a points return that you'd be looking at it on paper, based on what you're playing against, maybe they weren't the worst results. They become better results if you win the other games that are around them. That, again, football's not played on paper, but the natural thing is people are going to look at, and it's never the case in football, but if teams are struggling or not on great runs, then you'd hope that there'd be games where you have, I suppose, bigger probability or bigger chance of winning. And like I say, we've got to make sure that the hope from our perspective becomes reality.
2 clean sheets in those games as well, which, particularly in the absence of Fraser, who's become such a key player for you, that must be really pleasing. Yeah,
it gives you a chance. Like I say, both the games were, in my opinion, I suppose typical games against teams that probably have a lot to play for. Not the best quality by any stretch. Teams that cancelled each other out. Thankfully, in one of the games, we managed to get ourselves in front and build on that lead. And unfortunately, on Tuesday night wasn't to be the case. But as I said after the game, my opinion's not changed on it. You look at the big chances. We had the big chances in what was a tight game. But if we'd have taken one of them moments, then we could be sat here with 3 points or 6 points after the 2 games. And it becomes a really, really good return.
Neil Burns obviously come in and had a real positive impact so far. Man of the match on Tuesday. How pleased are you with how quickly he's settled in here?
I knew he'd settle in well, hence why we brought him here. Like I said, there were probably bigger risk options that we could have taken, but I've worked with Bernard before, twice at 2 different clubs. He's worked with me, knows how we're going to go about things, know how myself and Clint and Jake, I suppose, act and what we expect of people. So there's always a slight risk involved in a new player coming in, especially as we were on a good run. But he's just a steady head, and will go about his job most of the time in an unassuming way. But to start, like I say, as he has, and fit in to that back 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to call it, including Ben, has been really pleasing.
We are just over the halfway point in the season now, 25 games in. How do you reflect on the season so far, and where do you think you can improve now going forward into the second half of the season?
It's always easy to get carried away in terms of where you are. How we started the season was not how we'd have hoped, but like I say, I still will stick by the fact that, from my perspective, you can't guarantee things would turn around, but we weren't doing the basics well enough. We were making really, really poor mistakes, individual mistakes, collective mistakes, which we were getting punished for. And you think over the course of a season, that normally doesn't continue to happen. And what we've done is, maybe some of the mistakes we have made, we've not been punished for, but in the main, we've cut out those mistakes and our basics have been miles better. And that's given us a platform to be able to go and build. That's built confidence, helps build momentum, and results in us being where we are. We're in an all right place. We'd love to be top. Let's not get about it, but we're not. We're sort of sat on the rails playing catch up. We're in a position where, especially, we've got a really, really busy 4 weeks in terms of games, which brings huge challenge, but brings opportunity as well. And if we can make the most of those games, then going into the final sort of 10, we can be in a really, really good place, and hopefully be kicking on and finish the end of the season in a place where at the start of the season, if we'd even offered it, we'd absolutely have taken it.
I mean, you mentioned there, it is such a busy schedule. I think it's 11 games in the next 6 weeks. Do you prefer that as a manager when it is that busy and it's just game after game after game?
I think you prefer it as a player. As a manager, probably a little bit different. I suppose from a selfish perspective, you would want to go into games fresh and having prepared or being able to prepare on the grass, because the longer you can spend on the grass between games preparing for the next one means you can put more pitches in the players' heads. But from a player's perspective, yeah, of course you want to play the games. I think what it does bring is it brings challenge and brings opportunity. We've got to make sure, from our perspective, especially through this period, having gone through a spell of, we just looked at it there, 8 games in the last, with games called 8 games in the last sort of 7.5 weeks. We now go into 8 games in 4 weeks, and as you say, 11 games in 6. So we play on average every 3.5 days, which is it's a big ask, and especially when the opportunity we have is a big one that's there to grasp. So we've got to make sure, and we're going to have a chat with the players about it. The next 4 weeks are absolutely pivotal for us, not just in terms of the games, in terms of recovery, in terms of the strength of our squad, in terms of players being involved. And as much as we probably would not want to in a certain way, we're going to have to mix things up. We're going to have to rotate players out, because what we want to make sure is, yes, we are successful in this little period, but that we come through at the other end, if you like, with everybody fit and available. We've obviously a couple of little bits at the minute. Hopefully within that, this next period we'll have them back. That will certainly strengthen us, but so you look at it in a really positive way, that the games are what they are. We've again put the Crew game in pretty soon. Wasn't many options for us in terms of where we could play that, and we feel that we're better off being in a position where ultimately at the back end of the season we're not playing catch up, and hopefully we can get points on board that back up that decision.
And in terms of managing players, how is the team looking for Saturday in terms of injuries, niggles, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's lots of little bits, to be honest. Not significant, not serious. No one, I don't think that missed out on Tuesday will be back available. But we're in a decent place. Like I've said before, the strength of, I suppose, us, hopefully is in the strength of our squad. We've just got to look out how, like I say, people are. We obviously use data and we use loading, and we get opinions and thoughts of players around where they're at. We'll have feelings and look at the raw figures in terms of where we think they are, but ultimately we'll be guided by what they're saying. And if we need to mix things up, then we know that we can do that. We're going to have to be good at that, like I say, over the next sort of 28 days, because you won't envisage that we're going to pick the same 11 for those eight games that are within that period.
Well, it's County's first ever trip to AFC Wimbledon this weekend. What can they expect when they go there in terms of opposition?
Yeah, my first trip as well, so looking forward to it. In terms of a new ground, I suppose they're one of the teams, and there are a few teams that are in the bottom half of the league, if you like, that have had change in terms of players being recalled from loans, but also new players coming in. So, yeah, a little bit of an unknown quantity, if you like, in terms of how they might go about things. I watched them at Crew probably maybe three weeks ago now, something like that, when they played in a different shape than what they played. They've been 4-3-3, but they obviously had Jenna to the mix and Armani Little to the mix, and they've got different ways of going. So we're going to have to, first off, get questions answered as early in the game as we can in terms of what system we're up against, what players individual we're up against, and how we go about it. But we'll put a plan in place, hopefully, to go there and concentrate on us. Players know what we need them to do against certain systems, and we'll obviously try and look at ways that we think we can hurt them, but ultimately we've got to go and perform, physically perform, tactically and technically perform at our best. And if we do that, then we know that we have a really good chance of winning. On the flip side of that, we know that if we're off it, then we put that opportunity in doubt, and we're going to make sure we prevent that as much as possible. And
you will be backed by another sellout away crowd. 12,000 County fans making the journey down to London.
12,000?
12,000, 1,200. That will be a good effort. Still the biggest average away following in League Two. How big a role do they have to play?
Massive. Listen, I don't say it for the sake of it. I've said it before, that the support that we receive, home and away, is unbelievable. It's not lost on us. It was disappointing at the start of the season because they still backed us when we weren't picking up the results, and listen, hopefully they saw we weren't picking up results, but maybe we did deserve results. What we've managed to do is turn that round. And wherever you go, if you can take an away following that, in some instances, certainly in the coming weeks, will be bigger than some of the home following, that it obviously makes it a much better atmosphere to play in. But we're out there doing everything we can. Like I say, when I first came here, it was about putting a team out there that they can, I suppose, relate to and resonate with in terms of what the players are going to give. I think we have that, and together, hopefully, we can be successful, and they'll play, like I say, a significant part in that. And I think they know that.
Well, they definitely sound like 12,000 fans on Saturday. Dave, thanks for talking to us.
Cheers, Liam. Thank you.